Russia has launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
I'm Marichka Padalko from 1+1. It's one of the biggest Ukrainian channels. I've been at 1+1 for 20 years, and the day of invasion on February 24th was my morning shift, so I was the first person alongside with my colleague who announced and who went live to say what is going on in Ukraine. And ever since, I've been reporting about the war in Ukraine. I'm also a mother of 3 kids, 12, 14, and 15 years old. And my husband, like many Ukrainian men, is now fighting on front line. We had these huge debates in January, in February, who is responsible for our kids' safety, because we have 3 kids. And since he told me that he'll have, I think, 3 hours when the war starts to show up at a special place. So, of course, women are, in our country especially, are more responsible about taking care of kids. That's why we have now so many female refugees and women who had to just give up their careers, abandon their works, and take care of their kids. And actually, that was my biggest challenge, I think, at that time, because we had those debates, whose work is more important, my work of informing people on crucial days, or his challenge or his will to be a part of the Ukrainian army. So the first day of the invasion, he was gone. But as he was so worried about Putin, that Putin was going to invade, he took our kids to Western Ukraine just a few hours before the invasion, the night before. So I woke up at 4 o'clock because I mainly do the morning shifts, or I used to be a morning news anchor. So I was up at 4 already, and I saw Putin for no reason. I was live, so I just got dressed as soon as possible. And as soon as he was finished, I heard first explosions. It did happen, I think, on the 4th day of invasion, that they targeted and hit the TV tower in Kiev. Many TV stations, most of the TV stations were based in Kiev. Many TV stations had female journalists and female workers. And as I told you, some of them had to compromise either their career or their family, and many of them left. Even top anchors from our TV channels, one of them, my friend, had to make this difficult choice because she's a single mother and she was the only one who could take care of her child. So at that point, we decided to go to a secret location in another part of Ukraine to set up a backup studio. And at that point, 1+1 had this secret location TV station. So every time it was a backup studio, not only for 1+1, but for every TV channel who was involved in broadcasting, because at that point we understood that big TV channels cannot keep up 24-hour-a-day broadcasting just because they don't have so many facilities, logistics, and people. So they decided to unite in so-called one channel. So every channel would have 5-hour or 6-hour slot that they fill in. So that's how we worked until the early summer. And in early summer, we all reunited in Kiev and continued our broadcasting. At some point, you realize that such things as makeup, your clothes, even a prompter, they don't mean anything. So at that studio that we set up just within a few days, we didn't have a prompter. I think we had time only to pick up just one dress. And at some point, first days of war, we didn't even feel like wearing studio dresses. Just we didn't feel like it. We just were wearing like sweaters or casual clothes mainly. Of course, at that time, we didn't have a makeup person, so we did our own makeup. But, you know, I think we were felt so much responsibility just to do what we did. So we didn't care much about the way we looked. Even we thought at some point that at such a hard period of time to be made up and looking fancy and looking like, you know, this TV anchors was inappropriate. It is difficult, but it has been difficult since 2014 because we had all these same reporters going to battlefields, to frontline over the past 8 years. And for them, it was not a drastic change because they've been doing this for so many years, and we have huge respect for them and admiration because no one goes to the front line because they have to. They all go because they want to. Nobody at the station will ever get an assignment if he doesn't want to go to the front line. Everybody wants to. So there is even a big competition, whoever travels next to the front line. And of course, our reporters are not always happy with the Ministry of Defense because they do not always give the permission to be in the hottest spots of the front line because of the security reasons. My husband is still with the army, and the first time we saw him after February 24th was in April when Kiev was liberated because he was fighting in Irpin and Bucha, and he made a surprise visit to see my kids in Lviv region where they stayed with my parents. And whenever I had some free day, I was driving to see them, so we didn't spend so much together. Then we all got back to Kiev, my kids, and in September they went to school, and we got used to this life, like going to bomb shelters and having this sirens. But unfortunately, after this October attacks to our power plants, and you know, when drones first attacked Kiev, we just saw it from our window because we live not far from the main office of the power company that was attacked. And just 2 blocks from our house is the main office of the nuclear companies, of all nuclear companies of Ukraine. So strategically, we live in quite a dangerous place. But my 15-year-old son, he is very responsible, and he's responsible enough to go to a bomb shelter in a neighboring building, even at night. And that's why he is allowed to live in Kiev and study in Kiev. And he's quite independent as the oldest boy. But my girls, who are 12 and 14, they really got scared seeing the explosion here and the drones. And that's the reason why you're now interviewing me from Prague. I just brought them here, trying to find some place for them to stay for some period of time. And I go back to Kiev just in 2 days to be back to work. With all these disastrous things that are happening, I feel even blessed to live in such a moment in Ukrainian history, to have my husband fighting. And I want to be a part of this nation who is fighting. I don't want to sit somewhere in a warm place with lights everywhere. I want to go through this experience with my people. This is personal, because I feel like if I stay somewhere away, I don't be a part of this nation anymore. Not that I'm saying that everybody who fled Ukraine will feel the same way, but that's how I feel. And professionally, of course, for people, when they see people, or I would say celebrities that they've known for years leaving the country, it's a sort of disappointment, because they need that support. They don't need so much information, because of course information is important and news are important, but they need support of the people that they have seen for years, that they are there, that they live in this kind of life with electricity cut-offs for 8 hours or whatever, that they're going through all this together. Whenever there is a crisis, there is always an opportunity. So we talk to my daughters to see opportunities common, like experience of living in a different country, in a European country, feeling themselves a part of the European country, because unlike me, who just went to the United States as a student in 90s, for me it felt like I went to a different planet, because Ukraine had been only 3 years independent. It was very different world. But looking at my children, I see that they get along here very easily. They feel very comfortable. They don't feel like they don't belong here. So I think that, of course, it's very difficult to be apart, and I will be traveling back and forth Prague to Kiev if they stay here. But I mean, they understand that they're here for the reason, and their main task is to save themselves for better times, because this generation will be building up a new prosperous Ukraine, which will be the part of the European Union, and they need to get knowledge. You know, one of the very disappointing things that, like many Europeans and Americans, will miss 2 years of school because of COVID. And now it's been the 3rd year that we don't have normal studying. Whenever I think that I'm tired or exhausted and need to have some rest, because a part of reporting for the TV station, I decided that every day I will have Instagram reports, because not everybody is watching TV. Many people are gone and they need to be informed. And I do this every day, and it takes me a lot of time actually, and I'm tired. And sometimes I just want to go sleep and talk to my children and not do this. And sometimes, of course, I'm trying to go to the TV station and work for such a long time. But I'm thinking, if our soldiers would think one day then that they are tired, what will happen to Ukraine? So, and I think they, in such hard conditions, of course, it's getting colder, and for them, life is more difficult than for me. So I think it's my contribution is so small compared to what they do. I admire our international colleagues even more than I admire our Ukrainian colleagues, because for Ukrainians, it's obvious that they work at their own country and the war is taking place at their own country and they go to dangerous places. But for me, sometimes it's so difficult to understand how people from abroad can go and risk their lives for filming very important stories. And I think the contribution of the international journalists to the global awareness about what is going on in Ukraine has been tremendous. I don't think any other war or in the 20th or 21st century had such coverage as Ukraine's war, due to international journalists who came to Ukraine, and I just want to thank them.